Well, hello. Welcome to the next episode of Think Like an Explorer. Usually with Kathy O'Dowd and myself, Nigel Vardy, but Kathy's done what Kathy does, and she's gone and disappeared up a mountain, and she's presently in the Canadian-Alaskan border on Mount Logan, and thankfully we heard, I believe only yesterday, was it, Cindy? She has successfully, and her team have successfully summited Mount Logan, and they are safely on their way home. And that's what it's all about in adventure. Go out there, have a great time, and please come home in one piece, unlike me. Well, that's from me. What we're going to talk about today is the fact, or I think, how outdoor education can save society. And I've invited a guest, Rachel Platt, to join us today. Rachel works with youngsters in the outdoors, but it's not for me to tell you about Rachel, because that's for Rachel to do. So, Rachel, tell us a little bit about what you do and where you do it.
Yeah, I'm Rachel, and I work at a secondary school, and we have a full-time outdoor education department. There is the head of outdoor education, which is Paul Aitken, and myself, and we have a extensive program of outdoor activities which we take our students on. So 5 days a week we take our students out kayaking, caving, sailing, gill scrambling, mountain biking, did I say caving? Loads of different things, and we take them from the basics all the way up to being quite experienced, and to those who maybe want to go on to be instructors themselves in the future. So that's where I work.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now, the reason Rachel and I initially got in contact, besides through mountain festivals, was that at a young age, I was put through the same. In my secondary education, I was dragged down caves and up mountain sides and canoed and such, and I saw the impact it had on my life. And I think it can have a very, very positive impact on many people's lives in these worlds. Now, Rachel, what age group do you start working with youngsters?
So we start at year 7, which is 10, 11, so just as soon as they've come from primary school, really. Okay. All the way up to 18, 19 as they're going through their A-levels in our sixth form centre. But over the past few years, we've actually started working with our feeder primary schools. So we have another instructor, Vicky McCready, who liaises with the primary schools, and they get some outdoor adventurous activities at a younger age now, so from year 3, year 4, year 5, and year 6.
So you started them pretty young, and I mean, personally, I don't think we can get people started in the outdoors young enough. There's lots of stories in the press. The press do this beautifully about children never do this, children never do that. There's a lot that do. There's a lot that go out. But what I want to talk about, particularly the angle of today, is perhaps we can't per se save society from itself. But what we can do is bring young leaders and people with a bigger outlook on life into society at a younger age, rather than, and I certainly see it in my world of engineering, a great many people who come into society quite hemmed in, quite enclosed, quite insular, because they don't go out and mix with lots of others doing what we find, of course, as adventurers and crazy people, interesting things. Now, Rachel, I know you say you take people caving, and I see you doing ridiculous things on mountain bikes and all the rest of it. So obviously this is a very, very big part of your life anyway. Besides working with youngsters, you're a great one for getting into the outdoors. Oh
yeah, I was very lucky to have parents who were quite outdoorsy themselves. So as soon as I could ride a push bike, I had a little motorbike, and we used to travel around the country on the motorbikes. And then as I grew older, we used to go camping, and then when I hit 10, there was the chance to go into Girl Scouts. And Girl Scouts had only really just started as I was coming up from Brownies, and I think one of our troop was one of the first all-girl groups in England in Scouts. So we were one of the first all-girl groups. We were able to go camping, and we did sailing, we did kayaking on the prom, on the tide. And so that gave me a lot of opportunities to get involved with the outdoors. We used to go climbing and abseiling, and it gave me a lot of opportunities. So as I grew up, I I fell in love with the outdoors.
Absolutely. I love two phrases in what you just said there. When I got older, when I got to 10. Oh, 10's not that bad. The other thing I think, and it's something very particular, as you said that your parents gave you a great impetus to get into the outdoors. And I think that's, if we're lucky enough to have that, and I certainly did, not quite as far as yourselves, but my parents took me hill walking, and we saw a great deal of Britain doing that. But I think a lot of people don't have that backup at home, if that's what you want to call it. And if they have got a desire to do something, then education is probably their only other way of doing it.
Yeah.
Now, having followed what you do and taking people, you know, here, there and everywhere, I think it might surprise a few folk that you actually are daring enough to take youngsters into winter conditions in the Cairngorms, in snow and cloud and goo that I tend to do. And I know last year or earlier this year, you took a group of youngsters out into the Cairngorms. Now, you know, it's not going to save society by taking them in there, but what do you think came out of that experience for them to learn about themselves and about how the world works and the world works with them?
It's interesting you say that, because we're doing some GCSE sailing at the moment, and quite a few of the kids are today and for the past couple of days are the ones that came to Cairngorm with us. And yesterday I was having the discussion about it, and seeing their feedback from the expedition, and it's very mixed. You know, one of our girls, her parents are quite supportive in the fact that she has been mountain walking in Scotland and obviously in the lakes, and then there are the other children who have never experienced that, and it was their first ever experience of those wild, rustic conditions, and they thrived from it. Although it was scary and it was something new, it gave them a new challenge. And one of the young girls couldn't even eat her flapjack on one of our days because her mouth was so dry. But then later on, as the day went on, I was absolutely loving it.
Yeah. I think so much in this world is about the opportunity that you give people, and not everybody's going to like the outdoors. Not everybody's going to like caving or, I don't know, cooking or building cars or whatever. We all have our own thing to say. But I remember the trip because I gave you some support on that. And,
you did, yes.
You know, I think we have to sometimes get out the way of, these people are too young, these people are from an inner city, these people haven't had that kind of background. And I've just put a link up that was on The Guardian a few weeks back, I think, about the world is your biggest classroom. You know, the outdoors are your biggest classroom. And I think what we need to do, and something you've proved to me, is that a classroom isn't a box with windows in and air conditioning and desks and machines. A classroom is an environment that you work and learn in. And if that happens to be a corrie in the Cairngorms or... I mean, I never understood till I talked to you. You could get GCSE sailing.
PE, it's GCSE PE, but there are the modules. You can pick whichever sports you want. So we take our kids sailing, mountain biking, climbing, and kayaking. Yeah,
and I wonder, when you listen to the mainstream press and everybody's complaining about we haven't got enough people learning maths or we're learning English, that's all I see from my perspective, not being in education. And I had no comprehension at all you could get GCSE in a sport like that. Yeah. And I wonder how widespread that knowledge is known in many places. Or is it, you can tell me better on this, that people don't want to deliver that or can't deliver it because they haven't got the instructors, and they'll concentrate on the skills they can deliver to tick some boxes and get people outside?
Yeah, we're quite lucky in the school that I work at, in that we've had a dedicated outdoor education department for coming on 40 years now. Was founded by a biology teacher at school who had the passions for the outdoors, who generated interest in school, and it just started very small and grew. So we're quite lucky in that we can provide that to our children. But there are outside schools who don't have the opportunity, they don't have the instructors, they don't have the money to provide those external chances to do, say, GCSE sailing or mountain biking. So some schools will just do the basics: football, badminton, hockey, netball. Whereas other schools may buy in instructors. They will go to an outdoor education centre externally and say to those instructors, can you pay for our students to do kayaking as a GCSE?
Yeah. Now, talking about society, something I noticed only a few months back, the British Mountaineering Council had a project to get people into the outdoors, predominantly hill walking, I think, as a start, because it was seen as a viable exercise for the nation. It was something that everybody could do. It didn't cost a lot of money, and it obviously had huge health benefits.
Yeah.
And again, you know, we can listen to a lot of the mainstream stuff, people saying we've got obesity, we've got issues with people not concentrating, we've got stress issues. This is all feeding into society from a young age. We know the health services are under pressure, and we don't think that's going to change. But hopefully, as we go on, if we can instill youngsters to use the outdoors and keep physically fit, and certainly for me, I find one of the greatest stress reliefs I have is getting into the outdoors. If we can use these natural ways of keeping active and healthy, surely that's got to have a benefit for the rest of the world. Now, do you have any, do you keep in touch with any of your pupils that have left and moved on and started to do other things?
Yeah, very much so. One of my students, Holly Wilson, she went through school and she went on to do her sixth form A-levels, but found that the setting, further education wasn't enough for her. It wasn't right for her. So she's gone on to work at an outdoor education centre as an apprentice.
Okay.
And there are several students who have gone on to university to study outdoor education. Gone to Bangor. One of my students has gone on to Bangor and will be starting his third year. And he started school at the same time as I started my job, which was 9 years ago. So it's really nice to see the progression in the students from 11 years old up into their 20s. But I totally agree that we need to get the children out more. We were caving with the primaries on Tuesday, and some of them were like, wow, can you actually just come here on your own? And I was like, yeah, of course you can. This is free. And I was like, yeah, of course it's free. You can come here with your parents. You can come out into the outdoors with your parents. And a lot of the children didn't realize that it was so accessible to be outside.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean, we do get stuck into an inner city lifestyle, particularly if we live in the inner cities. I think a lot of people don't comprehend that it's a beautiful big world out there, and you've got to get there. Yes, you've got to do that. You've got to travel. And after that, it costs nothing. And I think sometimes people put values on things. I must invest in something monetarily to get something back that's positive. Whereas actually, from Derbyshire's perspective, where I am, it's well-dressing season. It's one of the oldest things we do in the world. We get big clay tablets, we stick flowers in them, we stick them on wells, and we take them to church and look at them. I mean, people think, but I tell you what, it gets more people outside, coming, visiting, being in the outdoors, and I see so many people wandering around villages, going into the fields, coming on their push bikes, just to see a well-dresser. And it costs nothing.
No.
And I think this is the critical point. We've got to get things into people's heads that it's a free gymnasium, outdoor exercise for nothing, and enjoy the sunshine, if we ever get any. How hard can that be? How hard, though, is it to get that message across to people? Have you had any experiences, Rachel, where people just don't want to go or are scared to go in the outdoors?
Yeah, regular. The amount of times say if we're going climbing, I'm scared of heights, or if we go caving, I'm claustrophobic. And when I actually explain the fear that they have and break it down into, well, the fear of heights is what, and then it's the fear of falling, and then we break it down into, do you think you can fall? And then it's no. And then the amount of times once that fear has been broken down, the world is their oyster. They can climb, they will cave, they'll be like, wow, this is amazing, I'm not claustrophobic anymore. So it's just breaking down those barriers and trying to stop the negative thought of I can't do this, or I don't want to do this. You need to break it down more, trying to break down that fixed mindset of why they don't want to do things and what they feel the outcome will be. But when it becomes a really positive outcome, they can grow from that. They can get that growth mindset.
Yeah. Again, something absolutely vital. I've worked with a lot of apprentices who are very, very blinkered because they don't see anything else. It doesn't have to be a particular outdoor activity or sport. It can be anything, I think. But once you start getting people to question and want to try and want to ask, that's always for the benefit of society in general, because they'll go into business or they'll go into work or they'll help people or they'll see things. They won't perhaps just have one way of doing it when they can think, right, this doesn't work, that's not good. Well, how can I get out of it? Or how can I make it better? And I found the outdoors is a fantastic breeding ground for that sort of mental thought, attitude and outlook. Now, obviously, there's the keep fit side. There's the hopefully we'll keep people slimmer and all the heart attacks and everything else down. Do you have issues though with youngsters struggling? Do some of them they're too? I mean, I've got friends who are so slim it's ridiculous, and they end up falling over in the outdoors because it's too cold. On the other side, you know, there's big lads like me who are carrying a bit too much weight and all the rest of it. Do you find all the differences in youngsters an issue, or do they just not see that and they just pile in and go for it?
It seems to be these days that size is a much more of an issue with children. Yeah, they're more aware of it these days. You know, they're aware of whether they're thin or whether they're larger or whether they can't do something. And so, yeah, it is. We do come across problems, but we try and encompass them. We try and work around them. So if there is someone who is struggling, we make sure that they feel within the group. We don't try to exclude them. We make sure they're exactly the same as the others. We give them options if they're not feeling confident to do things in the guild. We give them really good peer support. We get the other group members to give them peer support. So, yeah, we come across problems, but we try to fix them. We try to make sure they feel welcome and able, and whether that's somebody who's a bit larger or small. And I get cold quite quickly, so we try and have a really good feeling of how the kids are feeling, and we do it to a level which is good for them, that they can achieve things.
Yeah. I think having that positive support, you've mentioned it a few times there, where people feel part of a group, they feel taken in as part of a group, so that people give them support, is sometimes something I've seen that they don't get anywhere else. And I've worked with groups who come to climbing walls and such because they get support. It's not always about the climbing, it's about the friendships that you make. And, you know, we've known each other a while, but we've got friends in the outdoors from when we were children. I bumped into, fun enough, a couple of old school friends the other day. I left school 31 years ago, and we still talk about the days we went sailing 35 years ago and the day that we got dragged up a rock face and scared, because I am scared of heights. You know this, don't you? I am actually scared of heights. I'm parking. But it's about being in a position where you know that's going to happen and you can deal with it. And that goes on to so many other parts of life. What about diet, Rachel? Because I know we're all about pizza eating, burger eating, pop drinking maniacs, and we all, you know, should give it all up tomorrow. Does working in the outdoors promote a good diet? Does it help people? Do you try and get that with them?
We don't tend to have that personal connection with kids, but if the conversation comes up, then myself and Paul will have the conversation. We will talk about being healthy, eating your greens. We discuss the children's social time. So I found over the past couple of years, the increasing usage of computer games. What did you do this weekend, Johnny? I spent 2 days on my Xbox 360, or I don't even do computer games. And so I've seen an increasing number of children spend far too much time on computer games and not have any knowledge of the basics, you know, how to keep fit, how to eat healthily, how to give yourself a good future into your adult life. And you know, childhood or, you know, young adolescence is the key time, really, when they need to be aware of these things to give them a good future adult life.
Yeah, I'm just talking about that. I'm just typing away here. one thing we've been looking at in Derbyshire, one or two of the centres, have been incorporating IT and technology into the outdoors. So rather than sit and play your video game, why don't we get a navigation course on a digital device so that you've got the IT and you want to play with it, but to do the course, you actually have to go out and walk 10 miles. Or, I won't say do an assault course, but do ideas and do problems and puzzles and solving. And then they can send the next puzzle to the tablet, and the tablet picks it up and goes, right, now you've got to get to this point on the map, and they go to that point on the map, and then they get the next problem or puzzle or test. And they found actually that works really well to incorporate the two, because they like using the IT, but the IT then drives them to get exercise. Is that something you've seen at all?
No, I've never seen that, but it sounds really interesting.
Well, that's it. People are my ideas, I know. Cindy, you're a mum. How do you get yours into the outdoors? Do they have anything in education or at school that gets them out and about?
Yes, well, they have the PE.
Okay.
And the youngest, they actually have woodland experience, which is one afternoon a week. They're taken into the local little spinney at the end of the school field, and they're sort of like just taught some basics about nature in there.
Okay.
But I am a kind of crazy mum, because if it's raining, I take them out to go puddle splashing. The other day when it was absolutely torrentially raining here, my mom was out in the yard with the umbrellas, with the kids dancing in the rain. Because we're just using the weather as different ways on how to experience and sort of like get outside. Because yes, they do have computers, and we have actually limited them on the computers because they do use it for school and they do use it for free time, relaxing time as well. But I also watch what they watch on television as well. So we have good discussions about what they see on there, whether there's good morals, bad morals. But when it comes to exercising, the kids are the first ones to complain that if I park too far away in the car park, they used to be, oh, can't we park closer? Now they have, and they understand my phrases, God gave us two legs, let's use them till we can't. So,
I think it's a good point.
So we do things like that. And
is that forest schools at the school then? Is it the forest school system they're using?
I have no idea. All I know is that they have lots of little things, and she goes off and she comes back caked in mud, thoroughly enjoying herself. And what amazes me, though, is the teachers are all very much saying, I'm really sorry she's got really planted, covered. And I'm one of the few mums who says, that's good. Clothes we can wash, and that's, if not, there's Tesco's down the road. But no, as far as I'm concerned, roll sleeves up, get stuck in and get out there. But I am amazed there are quite a few other mums out there that they are the first ones to go and buy a whole load of waterproofs. And there was a whole big discussion on a Facebook group about how they could get waterproofs for a 5-year-old. We're talking the trousers and the cagoule as well with Wellingtons.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, just let them get muddy and get stuck in.
Yeah. And I think, as Rachel said earlier, and you said there, Cindy, a lot is about the people that inspire you. A lot is about what your parents do with you when you're smaller and through your life, and also what happens a great deal through people that you meet. I'm sure we probably all had some teacher or somebody in our younger lives who inspired us, that we met and took us on adventures or told us stories or dragged us out on boats or whatever it was. And I know, Rachel, you know that there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. I will draw the line at that because nothing stops that. But you're right. If you can be correctly attired, and we shouldn't sit behind a pane of glass in the rain complaining that it's wet. We should be on the other side of the glass, enjoying the conditions. Because this is Britain we're in. We're not going to get any better. So
absolutely,
rather than being almost sun worshippers, as Rachel's done, they're young, they're adventurous, take them out in the snow. Mm-hmm. In fact, just before that week you were up there, Rachel, I was doing some work in the Gorms, and there was a centre there who I've worked with, who actually had some young girls of Asian descent on their own, which in itself was pretty impressive. And they got them in the Northern Corridors in the Cairngorms in 6 feet of snow. They'd never seen snow. And they loved it. I have never seen such a bunch of youngsters, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. They were so excited and alive and vibrant and buzzing. But the secret is, of course, we've got to carry that on and take that initiative and take that drive to do something positive that later in life may save us all.
Agree.
Good point.
Well, I think we've talked pretty well there, actually. I think we've covered quite the ground. Have you got anything to add there, Rachel, before we close?
No, not really. I think it's just awareness, really. And although we can't get everybody out into the outdoors, we can at least try and get them an idea of what they can do and the availability of it. And okay, in a city, people will have to travel further, but it's giving them the ability to get there, to understand that it's free for them to go and experience it. I think once somebody's experienced the outdoors, it's it kind of lights a fire inside. I can remember as I've grown older, even though I've been to quite a few places, when I go somewhere new in the outdoors, it's like, oh wow, it's a new experience. Every day you go into the outdoors, it's something different.
Fantastic. Thank you for watching. This has been Think Like an Explorer with Nigel, Rachel and Cindy. Kathy, get home safe. Don't do what I do on mountains. And we'll see you all next time, folks. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks.